Welcome. Hello there, guys. Thank you for joining. We're a couple of minutes late, and I apologize. Technology is fantastic, but it's not great when it doesn't work in your favor. I just have to say that I really like the idea that if I had a lot of money or a lot of assets or maybe perhaps secrets, I love the fact that there's so many authentications that you have to do. However, I don't. And it just becomes more of a hindrance. Anyway, so we're late, but we're here. It's all good. Welcome. So, welcome everyone who's going to watch this at a later date or who is joining us hopefully shortly. This is our monthly live stream. We're Star Walking, the longest running Star Wars fan club in the world. And thanks to some people who are joining me today, and one of those people is Dags. So, yeah. wouldn't have this without you. How's that for a nice intro? And Troy, welcome, Troy. You don't get a fancy intro.
That is very, very cool to have us on board. I'll tell you what was funny. Whenever the club has an anniversary, and then people would ask me, I said, how long have you been a part of Star Walking for? And I say, well, just assume it's been 35 years. I say, you know how the club's been running for 35 years? I've been a part of it for 36 years. So there you go. So
exactly.
Yes, a long, long time.
It's big shoes I can't fill, but that's okay. Thank you for joining both of you today. So we did have a bit of a discussion beforehand and what we thought we could do. Well, it was more Deb decided and then you guys agreed, but we had a bit of a discussion, decided that we would talk a little bit about collecting, because sometimes we get on and our monthly live stream, we might talk about the most recent movie or the most recent episodes or series that are running at the moment. There's nothing running right now. However, in 2 days' time there is. So Star Wars Visions comes onto Disney Plus, the Ninth Jedi, the series that's going to be coming out. So that will be in 2 days' time. But we're not there yet, so we're not going to talk about that. Welcome, Chris. Thank you for joining us and for commenting. I'm not sure what it shows, but that's cool. And hi, Tony. Thank you also for joining us. We're going to talk collecting. I've got a few questions I thought we could start with just to get us going, because I know that people collect different things for different reasons, and you know there's different ways that we go about doing things. And thank you, Christian, for joining us. Evening, fellow geeks. Oh, okay, fair enough. And Emily as well. Hello. Collecting. I know a little bit about the two of you. That Dags has been. Oh, Chris said he was laughing about you being around for 36 years. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I couldn't remember the number time frame. It's between 35 and 38. What do we have? It's 2 years' time. Oh, yeah, it's 38 at the moment, and I've been a part of it for 39. Yeah, that would make sense.
And his comment is that it's showing. So what he's trying to say is that maybe you look 39.
I'll take that compliment. Thank you very much. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. So it's not the years, but the mileage. Exactly right.
I know the two of you have various things that you collect. Perhaps there are other things that I don't know about what you do collect. So what, Troy, do you want to go first? What things have you or do you currently collect? And welcome, Paul. Thank you also for joining us.
So besides Star Wars 3.75 inch, I've also collected Master of the Universe Classics. That line has ended, so that's at the moment in storage. But I also have been collecting Silverhawks, the new version from Super 7, and also Silverhawks, which was an 80s cartoon.
Okay. Thank you.
So and also Mask, which some people may know from the 80s as well. It's a new company has taken over and have started doing the vehicles again, or redoing them. So yeah, when I show you my collection, I'll be able to show you the Mask vehicles at least.
Okay. What about you, Dax?
So are you just talking Star Wars, or are you just talking about just everything?
Just in general, just curious, because I know for you had Batman.
I did. So
a very large Batman collection. So I was wondering, what else have you collected?
So I actually got out of the collecting game a couple of decades ago, in fact. But at the time, it was a little bit insane. So one of the things I own, now this is going to sound pretty funny, right, at face value, because you look at Star Wars and there's millions of action figures and toy sets and whatever. But I own, and this is true, no word of a lie, every single Dune toy they ever produced for the 1984 movie. Every single one. Every single one.
Wow.
A whole lot. Done.
Feels
Now,
like
you might
a
be saying,
challenge. Feels like
wow.
a challenge to find one that you don't have.
No. I own them all, right? Now, the joke, of course, is there was only ever 6 action figures, 2 guns, 1 play set, 1 worm, a couple of vehicles, and that's it. They produce barely nothing for it, but I own the whole lot. So it sounds very impressive when I say it like that. So I don't want to dwell on the Batman collecting stuff, but yes, I spent 7 years as a Batman collector, which I've now sold most of that collection off. But in my fridge, even as of today, I still have a chocolate Batmobile sitting in the butter drawer of my refrigerator from 1992. And I still have chocolates and jellies from 1989 that are still in the fridge. And I still have ice creams that are still mint and sealed. This is all mint and sealed, by the way, that are in the fridge as well, in the freezer, from Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. So, I mean, that's kind of nuts when you sit and think about it, right? But when it came to Star Wars, at the time, Star Wars was always a very competitive collecting field to get into. And I just found it was just too hard to get into it because it was just so large, so competitive, and very expensive. So the only thing I did collect at the time was movie posters. So I had a big collection of official Star Wars movie posters, most of which I've since sold off. But I found that to be my forte. But there are other collectors in the club who had way more than I did. But that was the one thing that I kind of really dialed into. And but I thought, yeah, toys, action figures, nah, too hard. And of course, I've been to Steve Sansweet's place a couple of times now, even before he opened Rancho Obi-Wan. So I was there in 1993. And honestly, if you're thinking about collecting anything toy-related, merchandise-related for Star Wars, you go to his place and you go, why would I even bother starting?
Yep.
So
I'm
that
never
was it, done,
meet.
dusted.
Yep.
And that was back in 93. So, so no, I definitely did not get into Star Wars collecting, even though people assumed I had a massive collection, and they used to be really disappointed when they found out I didn't.
That's kind of funny. And to those who have joined us online, we'd like to know if there's a specific area of things that you collect, or if there's a different pop culture item that you collect that's not Star Wars. That's what we'd like to know. I grabbed a couple of things that are kind of behind me that reflect what mine looks like. Give me a second. I'm going to do a show and tell. So I agree. It's too hard to do Star Wars figures. So for a while, I was doing books. I know this is not a novel, but I thought I could maybe collect all of the Star Wars books. I thought wrong. I think I have maybe half of how many exist. So I gave up on that concept because also books are heavy and books start to smell and get dusty easier than figures do. So I gave up on the books, and then I thought maybe I could do Star Wars games. These are just my representation. So that's just a Sabbath game, right? So I thought maybe I could do games, but also games are not that easy to find, but there aren't as many. It's kind of a little bit like your Dune story where there's not that many, but the more I looked into it, there's just more and more Star Wars games being made. So I gave up on that idea too.
I was going to say to you, when you said about things being dusty and smelly, I thought you must be talking about Star Wars fans.
Speak for yourself.
Can get that way.
Definitely, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Similar to your thing, mine is Shadows of the Empire. So there aren't as many Shadows of the Empire items out there as there are any other part of Star Wars. So I have, I think, most of the figure sets that came out for it, because it's not even rule canon or anything. So I've got most Christians, who are you calling Dusty?
Me.
So I have most of the Shadows sets and figurines. I think I'm missing 1 or 2 little thing, and I've got like the Slave 1 that's from it, and the
What are you missing, Deb? I might have it. What are you missing? I might have it.
I'll have a look and find out.
Yeah.
So my biggest collection is Lego. So, and particularly Slave 1s are my favorites. So I have a lot of Lego, but again, you find that there's just so much, and it's hard to reach having every single thing. I'll give up on my other stuff, but yeah. So there's some of the stuff that I collect.
So somewhere in our talk, I'm going to tell you a story of one of the most impressive Star Wars collections I've ever seen. I haven't seen this for 20-something years, and actually might be close to 30 years now. But it's the kind of thing that were so unique and so different. It just blew my mind completely. I don't know if you want me to share that story now or you want to wait until later on.
You can share it now. Go for it.
Okay, so in the 1990s, obviously, action figures were big, toys were big, and whatever else. But there was one guy that I knew, and Chris knows him well, called Phil Mitzi. And what Phil Mitzi did, he was in Victoria, and he would actually contact people all throughout the world when the internet was just starting up, and he was using bulletin board services. And his passion was food packaging items. Okay, so not the food themselves, but just the packaging. So we're talking about cereal packets, potato chip
cereal
packets,
boxes,
all that sort of thing. And what he would do is contact all these people from around the world, and he would say, I will buy something for my country to send to you if you buy something for your country and send to me, right?
Oh, that's
and
clever.
He got Star Wars stuff from the most bizarre places. Like he would get potato chip packets from Tanzania, right? Or he might get a Star Wars cereal box from Morocco. And because he put it all into folders, and when you saw this stuff, it was absolutely mind-blowing because you'd never seen anything like it, right? I mean, we've seen millions of action figures and millions of toys here and there, but nothing like this from all these countries all around the world. Wow. And I tell you what, it was just folder after folder, and he displayed them really, really nicely from all these different food packaging products that were really well displayed, like chocolate bars and whatever else, with the food removed. And it was absolutely mind-blowing because I thought, who knew these countries even had Star Wars, let alone produce their own merchandise? So that, to me, is the best collection I've ever seen.
Where does that exist now? Do you know?
I haven't seen Phil for a long time. As far as I know, he's still got it, but he was very passionate about it. But it was just, that was what I thought was out-of-the-box thinking, right? Contacting all these people online and just trading. That's all it was just trading with him and other people.
Don't you mean out of the cereal box?
Very good, funny man, makes me laugh. And exactly right. And because he would get this stuff in great condition, put him in his folders. And but I tell you what, if you saw something like that, and that is not the kind of thing you would think of. So where he got the idea from, I got no idea. But geez, I tell you, and this is all during the Phantom Menace period as well. So it was absolutely mind blowing. So yeah, cool.
I think that's a great one because when you think of, you have been getting packaging with different languages on it. Mm-hmm. And everything, it's that I have to agree that is out of the box.
Well, definitely, it's not the kind of thing you expect to see
either. Later.
Yeah, so it's not the kind of thing you expect to see either, because when you're looking through this stuff and you go, I didn't even know, like you get like a cereal box from Poland or something. You go, I didn't even know they even had Star Wars in Poland, let alone their own products. And as I said earlier, that was very, very impressive. And I thought, wow. Well done. And that's the kind of stuff even Sansweet wouldn't have. So, it was very cool.
That's interesting.
I know. Steve Sansweet would have a lot of stuff from around the world, but not from really obscure European countries and African countries and whatever else. His main focus was primarily US, Australia, England, and Japan. And when we visited his house in 1993, every day products would just turn up. In fact, one time we're actually sitting on his balcony and a box just rolls up out of nowhere. Right. And we open it up and it's Darth Vader skateboard wheels and go, where the frig did they come from? And he said, stuff just arrived every day. This is crazy.
Wow, that's amazing. We get some comments. So Greg says he has a small Doctor Who collection with Daleks and Cybermen, also some Borg from Star Trek. Michael says, and welcome, Michael, I stay with vintage Star Wars. They aren't making any more of that. That's the thing I find is if you start collecting something that is currently being made, it's like when people got into what are the new things? The Black Series.
Yep.
And you thought, and so when the Black Series first came out, I thought to myself, oh, I can do this. There's this many of them. Not a problem. I think I can budget in being able to have a full set, but then they kept making them, and it's never ending, and I'm never going to have a full set, so I gave up on that quickly.
So I work part-time in a collectible store here in Melbourne, right? Aaron's Collectibles, and I work there on the Saturday. And we get a lot of people coming in, trading, buying, and collecting, and whatever else. And quite often, you'll say to customers when they come, they walk in, they see all this stuff, and their mind is blown. We've got like 6 cabinets of Star Wars figures, and I would say, look, if you're collecting for 2 particular reasons. One, because you like it and you enjoy it, and the other one is you're buying it as an investment to resell later on. Okay. 2 totally different mindsets. And if you're buying for yourself to enjoy it, by all means, either get as much as you want or as little as you want. It really doesn't matter. Just make sure you buy it because you enjoy it. And as a previous Batman collector, I used to buy items that I didn't like buying. There's a whole other story related to that. But if you're buying things as an investment, then it's a different mindset entirely, because you're not saying whether I like it or not is irrelevant. I want this to resell, in the distant future, and I want to get like return investment plus a profit. So there are two totally different ways of looking at it. But I've always said to people, like you said about the Black Series, you don't have to feel as if you have to get every single one. Just get the ones that you like and then go, I'm cooking on gas, as opposed to saying I'm buying every single one so I can resell them all as a collection later on.
I have to agree there, because I don't collect every single figure from the 3.75 line, only what I want. So I collect for enjoyment. Yes, is there, can I resell it later on, get some money for it? Of course. Is that in the top of my priority? No, not at all. I open most of my things. I have got a few things not open only because either I haven't got place for it, or I won't open it until that part of Star Wars is complete. For example, the Bad Batch. Now, there's only 2 figures of the main Bad Batch being released, so I'm not going to open them until the others are open. Then I can make a display of them.
Do you and this question, and I'll start looking through some more of the chat comments, but one of the questions I think, one of the thoughts I have is, I get, because there's always the question about people opening or not opening, but do you find that some things look better in packaging, or am I just imagining that? Because I find that some packages look very good, and I'd rather leave it where it is than have it with a boring background.
So once again, it comes back to the investment scenario. If you're not planning to ever resell, take it out of the packet if that's your want. But you've got to be aware of what it is that you've done. Now, funnily enough, in the store, we have scenarios where we'll get action figures in, and they'll actually sell better loose than packeted. And the mindset behind that is some collectors or some purchasers don't want to physically take it out of the packet themselves, because there's this mindset going around as everything is bought brand new, must be kept brand new. So if we do that for you, so we've actually physically opened it up. We do it with some Phantom Menace merchandise and figures and things as well. We've already done the hard yards. You've just got to buy the figure. And sometimes they'll actually sell better loose than they will packeted. So, it just depends on what it is. Large statues look excellent out of the box, but the idea is so long as you put them back in the box without damaging them, it's not such a big deal. But action figures, once they're out, they're done. So there's that mindset of saying, and we're talking about like toys, for example, I've always argued in the packet, it's a collectible. Out of the packet, it's a toy. And there's a huge difference in terms of value between the two. So it just depends on what is it you're trying to achieve.
And or if it's signed, that makes a difference too. Some of the welcome everyone else who's joined us since we started talking. Some of the comments are along the lines of, wait, let me find it. So Christian says that Gus Lopez is also collecting food packaging at the moment. And
it's good.
And then Paul Ruckett said that one of the items that he won't get rid of is an episode 2 bus stop poster. There were 4 variants and never saw 3 of them.
Yeah,
so
that was the whole Anakin Padme thing. Yeah.
And Nick had Greek cereal boxes with Star Wars on them.
Yeah.
And then there was Go-Gurt, which is one of those difficult things, because you're like, well, how are you going to clean that? But yes. So one of the comments, the 2 comments that stick to my mind that here is the idea of the leaving in the packaging, the simple answer, which is what Greg has put up. Did we lose Troy?
Yeah, we did.
The simple answer is buy 2, then you can open 1 for your display cabinet. Love that.
Yeah, that doesn't really work. I mean, if you're talking about June collectibles, right, where there's only like maybe less than a dozen items, not a problem. But when you're talking about something where there are thousands of items, very few people can really do that. I guess what it comes down to is you need to know in advance what it is your game is, right? We've had people come into the store and said, I want to buy investment items to resell at a later date. And of course, there's a different mindset regarding that. So you can't play 2 cards the same, 2 different ways. So either you're going to keep it for yourself and then maybe do whatever you want down the track, or you're buying to resell. But if you happen to own something and you don't take it out of the packet and you happen to keep it for 20 years, good for you, and you can resell it, yay team. But you just be aware if you're going to open something up, what the end result's going to be. Keeping in mind, and this is what I say to people in the store, if you buy this item today, you may have to wait 3 decades, right, for that to be like worth a lot of money. I mean,
True.
there are items now from the Phantom Menace that's 27 years ago that are worthless, right?
I know.
So even packeted, it could take another 30 years before they're worth anything, if ever. So there's that mindset too. So just don't think just because it's packeted, it's going to have a value associated with it, because it doesn't work that way.
And
True.
also, Dags, you would know this as well. Star Wars has a bell effect. Some
Mm.
will low and then it'll come up. The value will go up and then it will drop again. So it's timing of your selling your collection as well.
Yeah,
True.
typically the anniversary is sorry, Deb. Typically the anniversary will work. So if you did have a Phantom Menace related stuff, as an example, in 3 years' time, the film clocks up, was it 30, 40 years, whatever it is. If there's a time
Yeah.
to sell, that would be then.
30.
But it still doesn't mean you're going to get a return on investment. It just doesn't work that way.
So Nick agrees that some packaging looks good, like the Saga collection packaging. So what I was asking about, leaving in packaging just because it looks good. But Chris asked an interesting question. What if, because we were discussing the idea of, you buy things for either investment or pleasure. What if you buy it for pleasure, and then it turns out that what you actually bought because you like an eclectic mix and you found something unique and you think this is amazing, and it turns out that it's worth quite a bit. How do you sit with that? How would either of you sit with that? And the answer can go to everyone in the chat as well. How would you sell it, or would you keep it, given you only bought it initially for pleasure, but now it's worth a lot? How would you sit with that?
So there's a two-pronged answer point to bring up regarding this
Sure.
particular answer. So the first one is that whether you're comfortable in selling it in the first place, right?
Mhm.
So there are some people who say, "Oh, I bought it for $5. It's now worth $500 today. Maybe tomorrow it'll be worth $5,000, right?" So there's those people who will just wait and wait and wait and wait, and then of course they never sell it, right? But I've always argued, and this is what I did for my Batman collection, you must get to a point where you are 100% committed to say, I'm happy for it to go, right? If you have even one shred of doubt, right, don't do it, because you will regret it. And it's that argument of saying, well, I sold it today for $500. Yay, team. And then next year it's worth $5,000, and then you're crying your eyes out. So you've got to be able to say, once it's gone, I'm happy for it to go. I have no regrets, no hesitations. I'm completely cool, regardless to what happens to it later on. And that's the hard part. And there are some people who struggle with that really, really badly. And we see, especially in the shop, there are a lot of people selling their collections now under duress because of the whole economic thing that's going on at the moment. There are people practically crying their eyes out because they're selling things. And we say to them, if you need to, hang on to a couple of items that you really treasure, right? Because if you get rid of it all, by the time you've walked out the door, you're going to be absolutely distraught. And you don't want to be in that situation. So ultimately, you've got to be at peace with what you're doing, right? But you've also got to allow for the fact that if someone buys it for X amount today and they resell it for a massive profit tomorrow, you just have to deal with it. Okay, so there's that as well.
Greg says, wish I had the pocket money as a kid to buy the Star Wars figures when they came out, but I was only 8, lol. And I guess that's one of the questions I have as well is, when did you start collecting? Did you start collecting as a child? Did you get given items as a child? Or recently, where does that sit?
Well, because I'm the younger of two brothers, so I only saw Return of the Jedi at the drive-ins. So my father bought my brother and I a fair bit of Star Wars. We weren't a well-off family, so he would save up. We would only get Christmas time, birthdays. He even drove down all the way to Campbelltown back in those days, which was a fair distance from Blacktown, to get a second-hand AT-AT and snowspeeder. So yeah, I pretty much was born into practically Star Wars, because I born in 76. Star Wars was 77.
You were parented well. Keep going.
I was parented well, yes. And then, so when that finished, but I was more into Masters of the Universe when I was a kid. But I still played with the Star Wars and all that, and we looked after our toys very well. Only probably in the last 10 years did my brother and I actually sell off our original collection with, let's just say, and this goes what Dags just said, more persuasion from my brother than I. I was not that fond of getting rid of it, but we did, and I think we only got a couple of figures left. and other collections we had. But yeah, and then I restarted collecting the same things again: Master of the Universe, Mask, Star Wars, all the things that gave me joy when I was a kid. So it's it's been part of my life pretty much since I was walking.
See, I was 10 years old, actually 11, when all the action figures came out, and nobody had an inkling as to what was going to happen decades later, right?
No.
Even if you're an 11-year-old, who's going to buy an action figure and leave it in the packet? Like, nobody is, right? But I remember a time when I did think about it, but then, off she comes. And that's the reason why they're worth so much. Sorry, just quickly. But the funny thing is, the action figures by themselves isn't where the value is. It's the weapons. The weapons is where the money is, because everybody lost the damn weapons, right? I mean, how many friggin' little blasters ended up going up vacuum cleaners and things like that, especially for action figures, that only had one weapon specifically for them, like Chewbacca's bowcaster. It was just for him and nobody else, right? And Bosk, I think it was Bosk had the big arm thing, whatever. All those got lost. So it's actually the weapons where the money is, not the actual figures, providing the figure is a standard figure, not with variants and all this sort of stuff. Yeah.
I did the opposite. I lost the figure and kept the.
Oh, really?
So I had a Chief Chirper, I think it is. Is it that?
Yep.
Is it Chief Chirper that has the
Yep,
headdress?
yep.
Yeah, and the staff. So I still have my original staff and headdress, but I have no idea where they walk in.
Oh, I think you're talking about low grade there.
Low grade. There you go.
Low grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those accessories are actually worth more than the figure. So, and there's actually a market now of people trying to fake weapons. So there's actually weapons tests you can go through to see if they're fake or not, because people realize, hey, there's money to be made in these things. It's like rocket firing Boba Fett's. There are people producing their own versions of it, and with a complete firing mechanism and everything, and they look absolutely like the real thing. And of course, they're not. So, and they're being marketed as being fake, but some people try to actually pass them off as the real thing because there's a lot of money to be made. So you kind of got to know your stuff when you're being duped or not. So it's a bit of a thing.
Yeah.
Well, in saying that, sorry, Deb. In saying that, my brother and I had a vinyl cape Jawa, which is quite rare, and we sold it with gun. We had all the weapons for all the figures, and we sold it to a person at CollectorCon, and he sent it overseas for grading. And when it came back, he was very pleased with the grading. They were all loose figures, but
So I've got a question for Troy. Right?
Wait, hold that question. Let me speak for a second. It's hard to shut you two up. Just wanted to make reference to what people are saying. So Christian says they'd always get lost. He paid $200 just for a Metaman staff.
Yep.
And Chris says, like the chin guns on the AT-AT,
yep.
those would get lost easily. And what I was just going to say was, in regards to who keeps figures on the packaging, my mum. So my mum would always buy a whole bunch of stuff, and it's not Star Wars though. Buy a bunch of stuff, put it in the cupboard, and then when the birthdays happen, pull out bits and pieces. There you go. There's your birthday present. And as we got older, it turns out she had an old Wonder Woman still in the packaging. It's worth quite a bit now. But that's pretty cool. Anyway, moving on. You can ask Troy the question now.
All right. This is actually for Troy, but anybody else can answer this question too. What is the rarest released? So don't say rocket firing Boba Fett's, because that was only a prototype. What is the rarest Star Wars action figure ever made?
Well, is it the long lightsaber Luke Skywalker Darth Vader one? No? Okay, wait a minute. Okay,
the
so the final page, the rarest. All right.
That got released to the
sorry, I'm
public.
just going to throw some names out here. So there was Yuckfos that was only released in not in the USA.
It wasn't released in the US.
Are we talking about the first bunch?
The first bunch?
Nope.
So we're not talking about the first bunch.
Nope.
Oh.
The rarest Star Wars. Now, when I say Star Wars, it's collective. We're talking about the collective franchise, right? So I have to say that.
The whole franchise. Okay. I have no clue then.
Well, you got it because Christian's got it. It was Vlix.
Oh.
So
what
Vlix
is Vlix?
So I'm about to explain to you. So Vlix was actually the bad guy from the Droids cartoon series, right? And the reason why it is the rarest figure in the world is it only got released in one country, Brazil. It actually took 8 years before America even found out the thing was even made. So by the mid to late 80s, the whole franchise was dying out. All the action figure markets had died out. but the molds had been sent to Brazil. And they said, well, it's still pretty popular down here. We'll make the damn thing ourselves. Now, Vlix is one of the most ugliest characters you can ever imagine, this big blue sort of fat dude, right? And it was only produced in Brazil. And that's it. It's the only place in the world that you can get it. And that is about the rarest of rare. So forget your yak faces and your blue snaggletooths. You want a Vlix. You get one of those. I don't know if it's worth anything, but that is the rarest by a country.
Wow.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. I know, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, when I found that. Brazil, of all places. Nobody else was making it, just them. So there you go. And people couldn't believe it. And they said, a Vlix? No way. And it wasn't until a photograph appeared online, probably in the early to mid 90s. They go, holy crap, where did that come from? So, yeah, but it's from the Droid series. Yeah.
Okay.
You learn something every day.
Yeah, I know, right? Paul says, I have four folders of Decipher. What's Star Wars?
Yeah, the
CCG
customizable
cards?
card game, CCG cards. Yeah,
right.
from Star Wars.
Plus full sets of some of the sets just sitting there, dead game since 04.
Yep, afraid so. Yeah, that was big in the 1990s. We actually had Star Wars CCG contests at Skyforce meetings, believe it or not. And in fact, in one of them, the guy who was running it actually had connections with Decipher in the US, and there was a competition here, and the winner got to fly to America to play the CCG games over there. But yeah, a lot of people invested a lot of money in those, and I don't think they've held up well at all from a financial point of view. Yeah.
Wait, Christian, is that the Vlix is on sale for $40,000 on eBay? Anyway, sorry, I got really distracted.
One for sale right now, 40,000. I'd be curious to see if it's a loose one or a packeted one. So yeah, it's ugly. It's
only 40.
Yeah, they're chucking them away. There you go.
Hey, if you have over $3 million, you could get the Luke's cut off hand holding the lightsaber from Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I saw
I've
that.
got $3 million is sitting around to buy something like that. Why not?
Why not?
Someone has.
Deb, I've been asked from one of our dear cosplayers, Mr. Darth Vader himself from CollectorCon, I'm not sure if he's online, but he wanted me to show my collection before we wrap up tonight. So we'll just keep that in mind, because he will probably force track me if I don't do it.
For those who aren't in New South Wales or haven't had a look at any pictures that we put up from CollectorCon, Brad is the Darth Vader who has not got his helmet on, and he has the eye contacts in, and it's creepy as. It's a little scary, but it looks fantastic though. What I wanted to ask is, and we've covered a lot of the things that actually I wanted to talk about, but one of the questions I suppose is, when does collecting become hoarding? And have you ever got to that point?
Well, I think typically the definition of a hoarder is someone who owns so much that it impacts their livability in their life.
Correct.
So if you have
for
things,
example, if you can't get into your bed, or you can't sit on your lounge, or cook food in your kitchen.
Yeah. So, and I think there are people out there, like there are a lot of examples of that. And I can't imagine someone who's a collector of merchandise. Actually, I can. I've heard this story before, where they've got things piled to the ceiling and garages and whatever else that are all completely full of storage sheds and whatever else, and it's all collectible items. So, yes, that would actually be the scenario. But the problem is, and we see this in the store, right? We'll have people who bought all this stuff, collect all the whole lives, and then they die, right? And it's just like, well, what happens now? So in the end, it's one of those scenarios where they say, he who dies with the most toys still dies, right? So in the end, and of course, what happens in this, I've actually dealt with this personally, you have executives who go, well, what do we do with it? And so in the end, you can either cash in on the investment before you cark it and then make a lot of money, hopefully, or in the end, you just drop off the perch and it's just sitting there and its fate is unknown. So, but yeah, hoarding is obviously collectible hoarding is when you have too much and you can't live your life normally. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jim says, when you don't have room to vacuum your house, Deb. Yeah, fair enough. And Christy says, when items are in danger of causing an avalanche or structural damage. That's actually a good point, because I could see people who would be like, but I can still get it. Well, me, I can still get into my bed and I can still sit on the lounge, but my other room is filled to the brim with Star Wars stuff, and yeah, it can be an issue.
As an extension of that, there's the thing about saying the whole thing of addiction. When is collecting an addiction?
Yep.
And it sort of marries in with the whole hoarding scenario. And I think we've all heard of scenarios where somebody said, "Well, I needed to pay the rent this week, but I went out and bought a collectible instead." And I
No,
actually
that's
heard of
not smart.
stories. I've heard of story, and this is legitimate ones, right? There was a husband and wife team, right? They said, "Yeah, we're sitting in the kitchen and going hungry." And there are boxed items just sitting right next to us. And this is like decades ago.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, that's not good.
oh, God damn it. So they're skipping meals because they're just spending all their money on collectibles. So there's that as well. So you've got the hoarding side when you've got people who've got too
An
much stuff. And you've got
addiction.
people who say there's actually impacting their life physically because of what they've got and they can't control it. And
That's
so
bad.
that's a real life scenario. And that's not just sci-fi collecting, that's with just about everything. But because I can share you one funny story. It's a bit of a gag, actually. It's just off topic a fraction. I once went to a model train show, right, where they had model railways all set up. And we went to one stall and there was actually a lady there. Mostly it's all guys, right? There's a lady there. We said, "Oh, finally, there's actually a woman in charge of a model railroad." And she said, "Oh, no, the husband's gone off to get lunch." So he comes back with all these bags. And she says to him, "What'd you get for lunch?" He said, "Oh, I just bought some trainers." I had to laugh at that. You can't stop it. You can't switch it off. Oh, jeepers creepers. So yes.
If money was not an option and you had, like we did mention earlier, the $3 million Luke Skywalker lightsaber. If money wasn't an option, what would you? And this question goes out to everyone who's chatting with us today. What would you buy, Star Wars related? What would you get? I have my answer. I actually know what I would get.
I know what I
I
want
found I
too.
found a
Yeah.
meme of something that was like a Photoshop or something. I went, I want that to become reality, and that's what I'm gonna have. But yeah, what would you go? What would you buy if your income was such that you had $3 million that you didn't even care what you wasted it on? Which would mean you'd have more than that, because if you only had 3 spare million, you wouldn't buy something expensive with it, because then you got no money left. That would be insane. So you'd have to have an endless supply of cash. What would you buy?
Troy, you might as well go first. I know
I'm
what I want.
thinking.
So, yeah.
Okay, I'll go.
Oh, no,
I,
Dag,
I
you go.
found
You go.
I mean, I
I'm
don't
thinking.
think it's even for sale, and it probably wouldn't be for sale. But of every single item I've ever seen in my entire existence as a Star Wars fan on this planet, the only thing I would love to have, even though it's totally impractical, is the 8-foot Star Destroyer model they built for The Empire Strikes Back. Right
the
now,
actual
clearly
one from the movie.
Lucasfilm is going to sell that, and $3 million probably wouldn't buy it. But it's one of one in the world, right? And I've seen it in real life, and it's absolutely mind blowing, absolutely spectacular as. And I thought, if I had one of those, I'd be the happiest camper. It's the only thing that I would actually, my heart would desire, and that would be it. But for $3 million, I'd be lucky to get the Conning Tower. But I've got to start somewhere.
Christy says that she'd want a life-size Millennium Falcon. Actually, when I read that she said that, I thought, oh, hang on, your answer is good, because yours is something that you can easily move around, whereas a life-size Millennium Falcon would take up all of your property. And how do you look after that and keep it safe? Christian says more prototype power of the Force figures. Okay. Jim says at least one single of every Star Wars set ever made, if that's what 3 million will get you. And Paul wants a Star Wars home theater. Michael wants to buy a Skywalker Ranch.
You wouldn't get it for $3 million, dude. You'd be lucky to get one building for that. So yes.
Actually, Dags, you gave me the idea. Now I know what I want is the model of the Nebulon B frigate.
Very cool. Very good.
From the
so
movie.
We can stick your Nebulon B frigate next to my Star Destroyer, and we just go pew, 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 pew between the two of us.
Exactly. No, that's the models from the movies were very good of the time. So yeah.
Neil said that if you're going to get a life-size Millennium Falcon, don't worry about a house, just live in the Falcon.
Well, you kind of could. It's got a chess set at least,
How
and
cool
at
would
least
that
one
be?
mirror
Your
in the
house?
bedroom.
It
House.
has got a bed. Luke lied in it. So yeah.
It does. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. If I had that money, yeah, I'd probably do that too. That sounds great. I actually would want a life-size land speeder, but I saw one which I'll post up on our page later that was designed after a Pontiac Thunderbird, and I thought that looked really cool. But yep, that's what I want. I want one of those sitting in my front yard.
If it's screen accurate, it's got to be right-hand drive. Just be aware
Oh,
of that.
I'm sure I could manage.
Yeah. Did you ever notice that the land speed, even though Star Wars is an American movie, that the land speed is right-hand drive,
I
not
did
left-hand drive?
not. There you
And
go.
it's because it was based on a Volkswagen chassis, which they got from England. So there you go. And of course, they drive on the right. They got right-hand drive in England. So there you go. You actually see the movie. You got Luke on the right, and you got 3PO on the left. So and then later on Kenobi. So there you go, fans. Trivia. See, there's one for you.
And Paul says the seats from the Falcon were made by Cobber Racing in the UK.
Oh, there you go, mate. Makes it go
Oh,
faster.
yeah.
So there you go. Very cool.
Michael says that so Chrissy says that she's going to put the Falcon on a property and park the Falcon, live on a property and park the Falcon in a barn or a shed. And Michael suggests that there's also going to be a cape room within the Falcon as well. I think we're liking the idea of having a property with a life-size Falcon. You guys can have your model. Me and these other people, we're all going for the life-size Falcon.
Do you know the scene in Solo? Because I can't help myself. You know the scene in Solo, right? When I think it was Akira's trying on the capes and Solo comes in, picks a cape and just drops it on the floor. That was actually George Lucas's suggestion. I didn't know if you knew that or not. He was on visiting on the set one day, and he actually said hand wouldn't re-hang the thing back up. He'd just drop it on the floor. That was there you go. Trivia. See, I thought you knew. You brought me on for a reason. So for those who didn't know, there you go. Fountain of all useless knowledge. Love it.
There's always something out there.
Yep.
Is there something? So we talked about if money wasn't an option. Is there something that? Hang on, just a couple of comments. Paul says Mick has a 1.1 scale model of Anakin's pod racer, so it's a full set of one-to-one pod races. Oh, okay. So you'd want a full set. Fair enough. Proudest moment of your collecting? Something that you got that you really liked.
Yeah, I got mine, but you can go to Troy.
Well, if people don't know, the HasLabs, which is the Hasbro making vehicles that would never go into shops. The first one was Jabba Salvage. Now that was only available to America and Canada, and then there was about 400 on eBay for the rest of the world. Now I was lucky enough to get one of those. Is it my favorite thing? Probably yes and no, but I was proud to actually get it because so hard, 400 for the rest of the world is very, because I didn't have any, American address or anything back in that time. So yeah, I'm proud to get that.
It's not your favorite?
It's not my favorite ship or vehicle, but it is one of my favorites. Yes.
Okay.
For myself, going back into the movie poster thing earlier on, they produced a lot of movie posters for the Star Wars franchise, right? So for the first movie, especially, we're talking about the original trilogy here. So for the first movie, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, I do actually own 2 Revenge of the Jedi one-sheeters. But the one that I always wanted to get was the Empire Strikes Back teaser, which is one with Darth Vader's helmet, right? The Star Wars saga continues, and I do actually own one of those. So that's an original rolled version from America. And that, to me, is like my prized item. So I do have, even though I sold a lot of my Star Wars posters off, and even had the Happy Birthday one sheet for those who remember that when it first came out. It was only just for one day in 1978, May 25th, 1978. They produced this poster, and I had one of those and sold that for a nice little amount of money. But my Star Wars American one-sheeters are the ones that I absolutely adore, especially for the original first version that came out. And as I said, the Empire Strikes Back one with the Vader's helmet, that's the one that I absolutely adore and completely treasure, which is very groovy.
Paul says that his R2D2 CCG card signed by Kenny Baker to go along with the Jeremy Bullock signing my Fett and Slave 1 cards.
Cool.
I don't collect signatures. That's not my thing. Never really. It's not something I'm interested in. A lot of people are, which is, that's their thing. It's not something I do. But the one I'm pretty proud that I have is I have a Jeremy Bullock one. I don't know why I like that. Maybe I do like Boba Fett a little bit.
Do you know why? That's why David Prowse got into trouble with Lucasfilm, because he kept signing his autographs. Dave Prowse is Darth Vader, right? Or Darth Vader is David Prowse. And Lucasfilm said, no, Darth Vader's our character, is our property. You just happen to be the body in it, right? This is back in the 80s. And it caused a lot of disconsternation. And he forever signed it. David Prowse is Darth Vader. So, I mean, it's tit for tat when you sit and think about it. But apparently Lucasfilm weren't happy about it, saying, well, dude, no, you're not Vader. You are the body in the Vader, but you're not actually kind of wanky. But anyway, apparently got him into a bit of strife. That was the first of a few sagas that Mr. Prowse went through. So, there you go.
Jim says number 2 out of 100 made. He's got a canvas of the Falcon during the Endor space battle from Celebration 30 in the UK. So that's his item that he's pretty proud of. Anyone else want to share what they're proud of? Also, I think there are all the questions that I had, because we've covered some of the things, like, for example, rules around keeping to a budget, being aware of why you're collecting. Is it because for investment or pleasure? Are you doing your research to make sure that if it's for investment, it's actually going to make money, and has it in the past, and the fact that you're risking, because you can't guarantee that it will.
Well, the thing is, as I've said to people in the store, I'll say, you buy this product, right? Let's assume you're a 20-year-old person and you say, I'm going to buy this thing in investment. I said, you will have to hang on to this thing for decades, probably longer than any job you've had, any like any house you've lived in, any relationship you've had. This thing has to come with you forever. And there's no guarantee that, 40 years from now, so we're talking 2070 something, that you'll be able to sell it and make an absolute fortune. It may just die in the ass. And that's hard for a lot of people to deal with. So, it's a bit of a reality check. Yeah.
And because we don't know how long we're going to live for, we could also get it for an investment and also not live as long as we thought we were going to. And then someone else has got to sell it off. And if, like what Troy had mentioned about the bell curve and the fact that, Star Wars stuff can be worth a lot today and then tomorrow it's worth nothing, it's a huge risk for an investment. I don't know if I would be encouraging anyone to do it for that reason. Just purely do it because you like it. It makes you happy.
Yeah, do it for the pleasure of it. And if it does end up being worth something down the track, then that's all power to you. But
that's just a bonus.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's one of the reasons why, and Troy, you'd be able to relate to this, why some of the really big toys boxed are worth a lot of money, because they're so hard to store. I mean, you look at it, a boxed Millennium Falcon from 1978 or a boxed AT-AT from 1980. I mean, the boxes are huge, right? And you go, how am I supposed to lug that thing around for the next 45 years? Most people can't do that and keep it mint without having it getting damaged and busted and whatever. It's almost near impossible. And that's the reason why those things hold their value so much. But that's a lot to lug around, seriously. So it's...
Well, for example, I even though I take the vehicles out of the boxes, I still keep the boxes in my garage. They're huge. Even though they're empty and light, they're still huge. Yeah. You're talking about, the sail barge, the Ghost, the Falcon. They take up so much room with the boxes. Yeah. So, no, I totally agree.
Not even just the boxes, the items themselves take up a lot of room.
True.
Christian says he's graded prototype Cardu. Is it Cardu?
Yep. That's from Phantom
Menace. So that's his item that he really likes. And Paul says we should also mention the Star Walking Lucasfilm approved bottles of port, which is one of the things. Yeah, he says that I own for my alcohol collection. The liquid is immaterial, but the Lucasfilm logo is the value.
Yeah. There was 2 versions of that made, one from the 90s and the one that was only made 10 years ago. Yeah. It was Mos Eisley Spaceport. So obvious. So, yeah. I'll tell you one other funny scenario. I had a chat back in 2002. It's true. In 2002, I had a friend of mine have a chat and we said, what's the deal with collecting? I think it was the same guy I was discussing earlier with the packaging about the future of collecting. And I said, the problem you've got, let's assume for a moment you have 100 hardcore Star Wars collectors as of today, and they're all young people, right? No one can predict what happens 20, 30 years from now. So they're all gung-ho, they're all in with, they're buying stuff, they're storing stuff, yay team. And then, of course, everything changes. They get into relationships, marriages, kids, mortgages, job changes, they move overseas. All these things that you cannot predict are going to occur. And, of course, that impacts everything. And so someone who is a hardcore collector today may say, no, sorry, it's all got to go tomorrow because I need room for the kids, or my entire focus has now changed. My priorities have changed. And you can't predict that. So your 100 may end up being just 20, 20 individuals 30, 40 years from now. And all those collections are gone. And people have said, I was happy to let it go because things changed in my life. I had other priorities. And that's the one thing you cannot predict is going to occur. And it does.
It's true.
Yeah.
And it can go the opposite way as well, where those 100 people were collecting, and then all of a sudden 100 other people then get on board and go, well, actually, I found these ones and I'm also going to be on this. And next, like say, for example, with the episode 1 figures,
Yeah.
they've been passed around and around and around, and they just keep depreciating value because there are so many of them because the market was flooded. Which is similar to what Michael said. He said everything is a gamble. Look at the Chili Warehouse and find of mask toys. The prices of those items dropped big time. A rarity possibility.
Yeah, the problem with Phantom Menace is everybody tried to lightning in a bottle scenario, or trying to do what they did for the 70s. Everyone got into Phantom Menace purchasing because they thought we'll just emulate what occurred in the 70s. And of course, that's not going to work because the only reason it worked in the 70s is because so few people did it. If everybody does it, it doesn't go anywhere. So that was never going to work. So
I remember being at Toys R Us with my brother at midnight when they opened the doors, and we ran in and grabbed one figure of everything of the Phantom Menace. And you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the lineup was, down at Parramatta, Westfield. It was down nearly the other end. But no, you're right. It was flooded. And then the next one was, before that, the Star Wars figures, Luke with the big chest or Vader with the big chest.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
So I'll tell you a funny situation. Before the Phantom Menace figures came out, now you got to remember this is 1998, right? Maybe early 1999. So the film hasn't even come out yet. And as part of Star Walking, we got allowed to go down to Gaffney International was the company who was licensing all the Star Wars products. And as Star Walking, we got invited to go down to check out all the merchandise for Phantom Menace before it got released to the public. This is when it was all just episode 1. And we got to see it all. And they brought us down there because they wanted to gauge our reaction to it. Now, at that point, the only thing that existed was the trailer, and that was it, right? Nobody knew anything about anything. And we got to see it. It was piled everywhere, and they wanted to see, and actually filmed our reactions to see what we all thought of it all. What we gravitated to. Was it the figures, the toys, the T-shirts, the posters, whatever? And they wanted to see how we reacted accordingly. And it was all over the place. And, of course, I'm not a collector of Star Wars merchandise, but the ones who were, lost they go, oh my God, and they already had their checklist. They go, that's coming out, that's coming out, that's coming out. I'm already making notes, right? So I get it, Troy. When it got released in Toys R Us, people just went completely ballistic because it was finally, I'm actually alive to see brand new products come out. I want to be there to buy them all. And it was just feeding time at the zoo. And I was actually part of Star Walking when we were doing promotions at Toys R Us in Melbourne, at least, for that midnight thing. And it was just absolute pandemonium because people were in the zone. And I guess, logic just went out the window at that time. But yeah, we got to see all the merchandise before it got released. So we knew how much was coming before it actually made it here.
It was the nostalgia, as you said, we hadn't got anything since the 80s. And then we get this brand new movie, all these figures, and especially if you collected them when you were a kid, it was the perfect thing to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Jim says the same thing. He said that he was at Big W at Penrith at midnight, similar to what you did, Troy.
Yeah.
But it didn't. The thing was, it didn't last long because in the end, the market died out very quickly, and the film came out and wasn't the biggest hit of all times in terms of critics, and it all went a bit pear-shaped after that. But at the time, it was fantastic. Yeah. Sorry, Debs.
Oh no, it's okay. Paul says, "Can we mention Dexter Jetstar for episode 2?" Do we know why that's relevant?
Yeah, it is actually because a lot of companies got burnt who bought licenses from Lucasfilm to produce merchandise for Phantom Menace, and they got burnt badly, right? Do you remember the neckties that they produced, right? The millions upon millions of neckties for Phantom Menace. Worthless, absolute rubbish. And all the people who produced those, they lost tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars. So by the time you got to Attack of the Clones, all these companies who would normally buy licenses to produce merchandise said, nah, we're not doing it. And that's why there was so little of it when it first came out. T-shirts, this, that. There just wasn't anything, right? You compare Phantom Menace to Attack of the Clones, it was like, oh my God, there's like a 90% drop-off in terms of stuff being manufactured because all these companies said, bugger that for a joke. I want to be a part of that because our company crashed and burned after Phantom Menace because everybody thought it was going to be just a money-making gold mine, and it wasn't.
Christian said, "Can they bring back midnight toy releases?" And Michael said, "First, bring out some decent toys."
Yeah, that helps too. Yeah, exactly right. So, yeah.
There was a
Sadly,
comment. Yeah.
sadly, they're the Big W and all them. They're just not buying the toys of what they used to. Like they're doing it in smaller numbers for starters, and that's why
Thrifting.
Hasbro. Yeah, and that's why Hasbro's selling a lot of stuff themselves directly.
Well, you
It's
got to remember too, one of the worst things that can happen with a store is, let's use Star Wars as an example. They produce Phantom Menace products, we'll say toys, figures. You put them on a shelf, right? Then 3 years later, the next movie comes out. They go, "Oh, we've got Attack of the Clones figures, but we still got Phantom Menace figures on the shelf here." And then 3 years
Yep.
after that, Revenge of the Sith comes out, and you go, "Hang on, we've still got Phantom Menace figures and Attack of the Clones figures here." So a lot of companies were very wary of having stock that was just worthless, and so you can understand their reticence in just going completely
Yeah.
hell for leather for a lot of
we
new
we call
products.
them sometimes. Some figures are called peg warmers.
Yes,
they
that's
are.
true. Yes.
Mm.
Paul makes an interesting point as well. The market for Star Wars is nothing compared to Pokemon and Magic cards, which is the value for hoarders. But it also makes sense because you could have a whole bunch of figurines versus handful of cards, and they can be worth the same amount of money but take up much less space. I think the card
Yep.
collecting
Storage.
is
Mhm.
a lot better for people. I mean, they don't display as well,
Well, I
but
tell you,
yeah, less
when
hoarding.
when people used to ask me, it's like, can you give me advice on being a collector? And first thing I'd say is, well, don't start. But if you do choose to become a
late.
collector of something, let's assume you have Fred, as you said, he's got his $3 million and he's ready to go. I said, did you realize, and this is a little bit out of date now, you can have a $100,000 stamp collection sitting on one shelf of a bookcase, right? But you buy that in toys and action figures, you're going to need a house with 15 bedrooms, right? So it's all about what's manageable and what you can work with. Okay. And with the good thing about, as you said, with Pokemon cards or whatever else, they take up so little room. And yet some of them, I don't know, personally, I don't know why, but they can be worth a lot of money. So there's definitely a mindset to say, thinking rationally and go, well, I've only got a small unit. Therefore, I'll only focus on this. I'm not going to go out and buy things like boxes that are the size of refrigerators with one statue in it, because clearly that is just not practical.
Right. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I don't know if you guys realize, but we've been chatting for almost an hour. I think I would like to spend, before we go and have a look at Troy's collection, just flag our next event. So if you're enjoying this conversation and actually want to participate without having to type, I mean, you can, it's still an option. You can also type or actually speak with us. We will be online together as on Google Meet next Friday, the 7th. Do I have the date right? Let me just double check. It is, yes, Friday the 7th. So if you're a Star Walking member, members only, if you're not a member, you need to be one, and that's not hard to do. You go onto our webpage and have a look. It's $10 a year, or $20 if you want the fancy coin, but $10 will get you access to our monthly meetups online, plus our face-to-face meetups if you're available to come to them. That's this Friday. Then we also will be having a face-to-face meetup in Inglebone in New South Wales at the end of the month on the 30th of August, and then we'll be back on the first weekend of the month for our live stream in September. Dags, I can't remember is what's happening in Melbourne. Do you know
No,
any
not off the
dates?
top of my
Because
head.
I
No,
can't think
no.
off the top of my head either. Have a look on our socials if you're not sure what we're doing. There will be posts up that will tell you what events are happening next. So now that I've done that little blurb, let's have a look at Troy's face. I'm going to remove Dags and I from the screen so that we can just see your place, Troy.
And I'm just going to flip my screen. I figured it out. I think hopefully this works. Tell me if yes, it's working. Okay. So I've had a request to show my collection. So I'll just go around the room. And yeah, I won't describe everything, but you'll figure it out. There's a little coin in there, if everybody knows. Now, the cantina. See if I can put a light on. Oh, I can't. There we go. Couple of tidbits. Couple of cameo. So it's not a perfect in regards to what happened in A New Hope. It's whatever everybody wishes their design is. Okay, quickly go around. You don't want to see the rest of my house. Star barge. So this is just, that was just in my lounge room. I'm going to quickly go upstairs.
I really like the way you've got them laid out. You have some beautiful glass cabinets, Troy. It's a really nice collection.
Thank you. Yeah, the ones in the lounge room, I like to keep a bit more, let's say, stylish. In here, it's a bit of a mess at the moment, but I'm still working on here in this room. So the indoor set, still working on it. I'll maybe turn off the reflection. Okay. There we go. Even better. This one, you guys might like, Jabba's Palace. There we go. It's probably one of my favourite ones. So people are wondering, I got a lot of vehicles on display stands. So I got them from, if you want to reach out to me, I can tell you where I bought them from on eBay. And the last bit, sorry, there's just a few figures there. Is it ADSC? And I've got a lot of figures in containers at the moment. Last but not least, and I'm going to quickly go through this because this is my bedroom. Jedi Council. Last but not least, one of my favourite vehicles, Slave One. Good old Razor Crest, HasLab, the E-Wing, the B-Wing, and another X-Wing, and a T-16 Skyhopper. There we go.
I am not surprised that there's so many ships at your house. given I know that's something that you really like to collect. There was a couple of questions, a couple of comments about how amazing that is. It looks really impressive. I like
Thank you.
the Jabba the Hutt the most because I was also really surprised to see the Jedi Council. That was awesome. Greg asked, how do we join the online meetup this Friday? So I'll just reiterate kind of what I said, which was it's for members only. So if you're a member, of Star Walking. So if you've paid for your membership this year, then you will have access to our team app. And in the team app, there is a Google Meet link that you can choose to join the meeting. If you find that difficult, send me a message, Greg, and I will organize to send you the link. If you're not a member yet, then sign up for membership and then you'll have access to the app. Other things are being said. You already answered about the black display cases. Moss Isley is on point. Wow, and wow, all right. that's a really nice collection. Really well put together. I like that.
Yeah, I have to agree. Yeah, well done,
Mine's-
Troy. I
mine's a
mean, a
bit
lot of
fake.
people don't have the ability to do what you've done, and it looks
Yeah.
fantastic. So, well, yeah, well done. All power to you, man. And lighting is very important as well. So, yeah, well done, dude.
To be honest, it was what we were saying before. My collection was all around the lounge room. Once I did up my lounge room, well, house, townhouse with painting and all that, and everything got stored in the garage. The garage has never been. I mean, the car's never been back in the garage since. And I decided to be a bit more mature with my collection in the lounge room, where it's not a bit of a ragtag, and yeah, invested in some display cabinets, and yeah, I'm going to improve it. Go put lighting for the cantina eventually, and all that. Yeah, but don't want to rush it and do it all at once, or then I won't have anything to do.
Yeah, it's a hobby after all.
Yeah.
Question was from Greg. How many years did it take you to put this together, Troy?
Well, I've been collecting since the newer era, since when I was living with my parents. Very small collection there. Back in my mid to late 20s, then I moved out, and then
You say
I
that like
actually
we know
just
how old you are.
I am 49.
Okay.
There we
Yeah,
go.
you said because he was born in '76. He said that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Also, I don't want to do maths. Thanks.
So yeah, I've just eventually started collecting a bit more and more, and yeah, like you guys said with money, well, there was a time where my salary was not covering any of this. So food and bills came first, and collection came last. And yeah, now and mortgage, of course. So things have changed. So yeah, I can put a bit more money into this, but not to go over crazy, not to go crazy with it. So as you could see, I still have a lot of room in my in my lounge room, and it's not on top of me while watching TV.
Yeah. It's not at hoarding level at all, and it looks like you've done it for pleasure, which is really nice, and it looks pleasurable to look at.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. What a great way to end our conversation today. Thank you both for joining. It has been, as usual, entertaining. Quite enjoyed it, and maybe we can talk more on Friday if you are able to join us, Troy. I'm assuming Dags,
Yeah.
you'll be able to join on Friday.
I'll squeeze
And-
it in my social calendar somehow or other. So it's all good.
I
I'm
actually-
taking one for the team.
I
Yes, it's all good.
actually saw your social calendar today, and you are a very busy man. So thank you. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, it's all right. No, it's all good fun. Love it.
Well, we will hopefully catch those of you who are members on Friday night. Otherwise, may the force be with you and enjoy your collecting. See you all later.
Bye.